of innovation and change, and states such as Saudi Arabia and Azerbaijan would fall into this category. Then there are the modernists. They want to make Islam part of the modern world and reform Islam, and we're thinking now of states like Egypt and Indonesia. Then there are the secularists, the ones that accept the division of church and state and make religion a private thing, and the major example there is Turkey. So Islamic rule is based on the principles of leaders and followers, with some leeway that make it possible to rectify a bad situation. This may seem an obvious thing to say, but it's important we draw attention to it, because as socialists we reject this principle. Now, if the golden age of Ottoman Muslim rule lasted from about 1300 to 1600, what actually went wrong? If they were doing the Viso, what happened? There are various suggestions made by Muslims and others as to why the Muslim empire declined and was replaced by something else. There's a lot of it, so I'll boil it down to a very vast generalisation. Three factors are pointed to. Firstly, the lack of rivers and forests that facilitated energy needs for machinery. Secondly, a government alien to the culture and language of the subject peoples, with state interference in the economy inhibiting growth of markets and civil societies, retarding economic growth. And thirdly, cultural structures such as large families, early marriage and high rates of illiteracy, also inhibiting economic growth. But some scholars and historians have questioned these generalizations, pointing out that some of them, particularly the one about large families and the importance given to tradition, they say that these factors aren't causes, they're results, they're reactions to the situation that people found themselves in at the time. But what really finished off the Ottoman Empire was its involvement on the losing side in the First World War. The victors, France and Britain, left Turkey as an independent state, but this membered the remainder into a number of semi-independent client states or mandates. And nothing much of relevance happened in the interwar years, but in the post-World War II European withdrawal from empire, things started to change. In the immediate post-war period, recently decolonized states across the world underwent the process known as development. It tended to catch up with the more economically advanced West. Development in this context meant economic growth and industrialization. And across the Cold War divide, industrialization was thought of by the political and economic elite as the key to development. The powerful backers of this movement, pursuing their own interests, of course. In his inaugural address made on January 1949, President Truman of the United States unveiled his bold new program. In it, he promised a bold new program for making the benefits of our scientific advances and industrial progress available for the improvement and growth of underdeveloped areas. And wedded to this was the whole idea of modernization, which I'll go into later if you like. But needless to say, the theory of modernization fitted nicely with capitalism's image of itself and with, sorry, I'll read that again. This theory fitted in nicely with capitalism's image of itself and served its needs to dominate or control markets, areas of investment and sources of raw materials. Now, the newly independent states of the post-war world soon discovered that independence did not equal freedom. Following the post-war decolonisation, the newly emerging elites and the former ruling powers came to an understanding as to the way forward. There's a massive programme of economic development brokered largely by the United States, but also by the Soviet Union, as in the Aswan High Dam in Egypt. And modernisation was to be the path to the sunny uplands of post-war prosperity. It's punctured only by the occasional crisis such as that of Suez in 1956 and the Algerian War of 1954 to 1962, which forced the French to withdraw from Algeria. And this is the period of the high point of Arab nationalism. There's talk of pan-Arabism, a movement for unification among the people and countries of the Arab world, from the Atlantic Ocean to the Arabian Sea, so that they would constitute one single nation. The golden boy of Arab nationalism was, of course, Gamal Abdel Nasser, who carried out a program of land reform, industrialization, and so on. He was immensely charismatic and popular throughout the Arab world for thumbing his nose at the West. Nevertheless, this high point soon came to a bitter end. In 1967, the combined Arab forces were defeated in their attempt to subjugate and destroy the state of Israel. Arab states became, although they were avowedly Islamic, they came to be seen by their citizens as corrupt and ineffective in solving the economic problems, social tensions and disruptions brought about by the process of modernization. It's in these circumstances that we see something of an Islamic resurgence. This resurgence can be seen to have at least 6 drivers or enablers, and I'll go through them. Where the Quran says that Islam will deliver victory and success by the end of World War I, states populated by Muslims were either occupied or dominated by the West.